welcome back to the channel. Today we are in the north between Portugal and Spain, and today we're going to explore Valença. Let's go.
There are places that surprise you the moment you arrive, and then there are places that transport you to another century. Perched high above the Minho River, overlooking neighboring Spain, lies one of Portugal's most remarkable hidden gems, Valença. At first glance, it may seem like a peaceful border town, but behind its massive stone walls is a place where kings, soldiers, merchants, and pilgrims have crossed paths for nearly 1,000 years. Today, we're exploring the incredible Fortress of Valença, wandering its medieval streets, discovering spectacular viewpoints, and learning why this small town played such a huge role in Portugal's history. Valença sits in Portugal's northmost region, just across the Minho River from the Spanish town of Tui. The two towns are connected today by an elegant international bridge designed by the same engineering school that influenced Gustav Eiffel's famous works. Every day, thousands of people cross between Portugal and Spain in just a few minutes. But centuries ago, this crossing represented something much greater. It was the frontier between two kingdoms. Whoever controlled Valença controlled one of the most important entrances into Portugal. Because of this strategic location, the town became one of the country's strongest defensive positions. Even today, standing on the fortress walls, you immediately understand why. From here, you can see miles across the river valley, making it almost impossible for invading armies to approach unnoticed. The heart of Valença is undoubtedly its enormous fortress. Unlike many castles built around a single keep, Valença is an entire fortified city. The fortress covers nearly 5 kilometers of defensive walls, making it one of the finest examples of military architecture in Europe. Its distinctive star-shaped design wasn't chosen for beauty. It was created for survival. During the 17th century, advances in artillery made traditional medieval castles vulnerable. Military engineers responded by designing low, thick walls with angular bastions capable of absorbing cannon fire while giving defenders overlapping fields of fire. This revolutionary system became known as the Vauban style, named after the famous French military engineer Sébastien Le Prestre de Vauban. Although Valença wasn't designed directly by Vauban himself, it incorporates many of the same ingenious defensive principles. Looking from above, the fortress resembles a giant stone star. Every corner, every wall, and every gate had a military purpose. Attackers faced multiple defense lines before ever reaching the town itself. Crossing the bridges and entering through the impressive gates still feels like stepping into another era. Once inside the walls, Valença reveals a completely different atmosphere. Instead of traffic and modern buildings, you'll find narrow cobblestone streets lined with granite houses, colorful balconies, charming cafes, artisan shops, and century-old churches. This isn't an abandoned fortress. People still live here. Life unfolds much as it has for generations. The fortress contains two main sections. The older northern section dates back to medieval times, while the southern extension was added later to strengthen the defenses. In the square, contemplate the statue of Saint Teotonio, the first Portuguese saint born in Valença, confessor and advisor to King Afonso Henriques, and inspiration for Portuguese nationality. Military Chapel of the Fortress. Our Lady of Mount Carmel, heroine and inspiration for so many battles fought by the battalions of Valença. She always accompanied our soldiers on the front lines and often deserved the inspiring gaze of Sister Lucia. Dating from 1700, it is a Baroque and neoclassic chapel with a longitudinal plan and single nave. As you wander through the maze of streets, you'll discover hidden courtyards, stone staircases, flower-filled windows, and inviting plazas where locals gather for coffee. Every turn offers another postcard-perfect view. One of the joys of visiting Valença is allowing yourself to get lost. There is no wrong direction. Every street eventually leads to another fascinating corner. This church is the most important historic church in the fortified town of Valença. It has been at the heart of the town's religious and civic life for over 700 years. Although the church you see today is largely 18th and 19th century neoclassical in appearance, its origins date back to the 13th century, when a medieval church stood on the site. Evidence of this early construction can still be seen in stone inscriptions incorporated into the building. Perhaps the church's greatest treasure, it's his magnificent 15th century Gothic Mudejar episcopal chair. This beautifully carved wooden throne is considered one of the oldest surviving episcopal chairs in Portugal. It was used by the bishops of Ceuta while the diocese was based in Valenca and reflects the artistic influences of both Christian Gothic and Islamic Mudejar craftsmanship. Inside the church, you'll find several important works of religious art. A series of 16th century painted panels illustrating the life and martyrdom of Saint Stephen, the church's patron saint. A rare Renaissance painting of Nossa Senhora do Leite, Our Lady of the Milk, depicting the Virgin Mary breastfeeding the infant Jesus. Several neoclassical altarpieces richly decorated with gilded woodwork. Historic choir stalls once used by the clergy of the Collegiate Church. The architecture, the church has a three-nave basilica layout, a dignified neoclassical facade, massive square pillars supporting the interior, a central nave ending in a richly decorated chancel, a bell tower that overlooks the streets of the fortress. The church has witnessed many major events in Valence's history, including the medieval growth of the fortified town, the Portuguese Restoration Wars, the Napoleonic invasions of Portugal, and centuries of pilgrims traveling along the Portuguese Camino de Santiago, many of whom still stop here today. I've never seen so many tunnels in one city alone. This adds to the wonderful medieval experience in this city, and I'm loving it. The parish church dates back to the 13th century and the founding of Contrasta by Dom Paio Gonçalves Carramondo. Inside, it preserves 5 altar pieces in polychrome, neoclassical and baroque with carving. And in the chancel, also a polychrome neoclassic with carving. The adjoining chapel from 1277 presents fantastic architectural elements, and the inscription, "This chapel was commissioned by Afonso Pres and his wife Maria Rodrigues in the year 1315. Inside the chapel, it is possible to appreciate the 16th century mural paintings. One of Valence's unexpected delights, it is shopping. The fortress streets are filled with traditional Portuguese shops selling handmade linens, embroidered tablecloths, ceramics, pork products, leather goods, wines, local cheeses, and regional delicacies. Many visitors from Spain cross the border specifically to shop here. The atmosphere is lively but relaxed. Instead of shopping malls, you'll browse through family-run stores tucked inside centuries-old stone buildings. It's one of the few places where buying souvenir genuinely feels like discovering local craftsmanship rather than mass-produced products. This museum offers the opportunity to relive some of the most significant periods in the history of Valença, whose building itself is a storyteller. It has undergone alterations at different times and served various purposes. On this tour, you will have the opportunity to visit the local prehistory, learn about the medieval environment, and see the city's fortifications from the 17th century. The Municipal Museum Center is therefore a space for preserving the cultural memory of Valença, local history, and its connection with tourist and cultural circuits, both within and outside the city walls. are two of its main objectives. The aim is to collect, preserve, interpret, and exhibit in order to promote an understanding of local history. Furthermore, it seeks to bring cultural offerings closer to the population through the systematic dissemination of the various activities planned. This bridge was completed in 1886 and it was designed by Spanish engineer Pelayo Mancebo. The structure is a 318-meter long, multi-level lattice truss iron bridge. The upper deck carries the railway, while the lower deck handles cars and pedestrians. It serves as a famous border crossing milestone for pilgrims on the Camino Portuguese. Valença may not always appear on lists of Portugal's most famous destinations, but perhaps that's exactly what makes it so special. It's a place where history remains alive, where fortress walls still protect centuries-old streets, where pilgrims continue ancient traditions, where Portugal and Spain meet peacefully across the river that once separated kingdoms. Whether you're fascinated by military engineering, medieval history, photography, local food, or simply discovering authentic places beyond the usually tourist trail, Valença offers an unforgettable experience. So next time you're exploring northern Portugal, don't just pass through. Walk the walls, cross the ancient gates, listen to the echoes of history, because sometimes the greatest adventures are waiting in the places most travelers overlook. Thank you for joining this journey through Valença. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with fellow travelers. Until next time, keep exploring because every destination has a story waiting to be discovered. And this is it, folks. I hope you enjoyed Valença. It's a beautiful small town, but with a lot of history, and it's very picturesque. So come and visit. And I'll see you on the next adventure. Bye.